The cock crowed in the distance, dragging the village of Amuka slowly into the dawn of another day. Smoke was already rising lazily from the mud kitchens. Palm fronds rattled against each other as the cool harmattan breeze swept through, and the distant sound of pestles pounding yam echoed from the compounds of early risers. In the compound of Chike and Ngozi, however, the morning felt heavier than usual. Ngozi sat quietly by the hearth, stoking the firewood to life. The thin smoke curled around her face, making her eyes watery, though truth be told, it wasn't the smoke that made her eyes red. It was the weight of many years. 8 years of marriage without the cry of a child to brighten her nights or warm her mornings. Chike was seated on a wooden stool at the far end of the compound, chewing a stick absent-mindedly. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered and proud, the kind of man whose presence filled a room even before he spoke. Yet, his pride had turned sour in recent years. His eyes followed Ngozi with a mix of scorn and irritation, as though her very existence had become a thorn in his flesh. "Ngozi," he called suddenly, his voice sharp like a cutlass breaking dry bamboo. She turned quickly, almost dropping the clay pot she was scrubbing. "Yes, my husband." Chike spat the chewed end of his stick on the ground and hissed. "Tell me, are you sure you are a woman at all?" For 8 years now, nothing has entered this house. No cry of a baby, no laughter of a child. You sit there every day cooking soup and sweeping floor. Is that what I married you for?" Ngozi's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came. She lowered her head, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. She had heard these words too many times before, each time cutting deeper than the last. "My husband," she finally whispered, "I have prayed. I have gone to hospitals. I have even visited native doctors with you. They all said we should have faith. God's time is the best." "God's time," Chike barked, standing up so suddenly that his stool toppled over. "Don't insult me with that nonsense. My mates have children running around their compounds. My mates' wives are carrying babies on their backs. And me, Chike, am I cursed to sit here with an empty house because of you?" Ngozi's chest tightened. She wished she could explain the shame she carried like a heavy pot of water on her head every day. The whispers of neighbors, the mocking eyes of women in the market, the subtle jabs from in-laws who never failed to remind her that a barren woman was like a tree without fruit. That evening, when the sun had dipped low and shadows stretched across the red earth, Chike stormed into the compound with a face dark as night. His elder brother, Okoro, was with him. "Ngozi," Okoro thundered as soon as they stepped in. "What is this we are hearing? That after all these years, you have not given my brother even one child? Tell me, are you a woman or a block of stone?" Ngozi knelt immediately, her wrapper gathering dust. "My in-law, it is not my wish. I want children more than anyone." Shut your mouth," Okoro snapped. "We have discussed it. If you don't give my brother a child soon, he will marry another wife. You cannot waste his youthful years with your dryness." Chike folded his arms, nodding in agreement, his lips pressed tightly. Ngozi raised her teary eyes to her husband, searching for some sign of compassion, but his face was as hard as the clay walls of their hut. Her heart sank. She realized then that she was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the man she had loved and served for years was ready to push her over. Days turned into months, and months into another year. Still, Ngozi's womb remained quiet. The final blow came one humid night, after a tense silence in their hut. Chike sat on the wooden bed, his voice cold and deliberate. "Ngozi," he said without looking at her, "I have made my decision. I cannot continue like this. You are no longer my wife. Tomorrow, pack your things and go back to your father's house." Ngozi felt her blood drain. "Chike, my husband, please don't do this to me. I have been faithful. I have carried this shame with you. Don't send me away like a goat from the market." But Chike's eyes were made of stone. "Enough. You are a barren woman. I need a wife who can give me children. Leave." The next morning, before the cock crowed, Ngozi folded her meager belongings, wrappers, cooking pots, and a few personal items. She tied them in a raffia basket. Tears streamed down her face as she looked one last time at the compound that had once held her dreams. As she walked down the dusty road back to her father's house, her heart broke, but somewhere deep inside, a tiny ember of hope still glowed. She whispered a prayer under her breath. "Chukwu, vindicate me one day." Behind her, Chike stood tall, his chest out, his face set with pride. The villagers murmured, some with pity, others with mockery. To them, it was clear, Ngozi had failed. Chike, the proud man of Amoaka, would find another wife. Surely, this time, children would come. Little did he know that destiny was sharpening its knife, waiting for the day when truth would slice open his arrogance. The drums echoed across Amoaka one bright Saturday morning, their thunder rolling like heavy clouds before a storm. The air smelled of roasted yam and palm oil, and the chatter of women filled the dusty square as villagers gathered to witness the marriage of Chike to his new bride, Amara. Amara was everything the eye loved to behold, slim-waisted, skin smooth like fresh palm kernel, with a smile that could melt stone. She was the daughter of a wealthy trader from a neighboring town, and her people spared no expense in sending her off in style. Cowries jingled, dancers swayed, and the palm wine flowed freely as the two families sealed the union. The villagers watched with loud approval, some even clapping Chike on the back. "You, at last, our son has chosen wisely. This one will give him many children, you will see. Chike is a real man." It was that other woman who was cursed. Chike grinned from ear to ear, chest puffed like a cock ready for a fight. Every time someone mentioned Ngozi, his pride swelled more. In his mind, this was proof that he had done the right thing by sending her away. Amara, on her part, walked with the calculated grace of a woman who knew her power. She had heard the whispers, she knew the story of Ngozi's barrenness, and she was determined not to suffer the same fate. Deep in her heart, she had made a vow. She would keep her place in this marriage, no matter the cost. The weeks rolled into months, and soon, Amara's stomach began to swell. The news spread like wildfire. "Nah, did you hear? Amara is pregnant. So soon? Chinik Equilaka, ODMMA. This one is truly fertile. You see? Was it not Ngozi's fault all along? Our brother is not the problem after all." The voices of women carried in the market like a chorus. Ngozi, who still came to buy vegetables and palm oil, heard the whispers. They pierced her heart like arrows, yet she held her head high. She refused to let her tears fall where the mockers could see. Instead, she saved them for the quiet nights in her father's hut, where only the crickets bore witness. By the time Amara gave birth to a bouncing baby boy, the entire village celebrated. Goat meat stew and fresh palm wine were served in abundance. The elders gathered in Chike's compound, blessing the child and chanting, "May he grow like the Irako tree." Chike danced that night like a man who had conquered the world. He lifted his newborn high, declaring, "Do you all see now? Am I not a man? Was I not right to send that barren woman away? Look at me today." The villagers cheered. The sound of the drum, the ululation of women, and the smell of feasting filled the night. Chike's pride rose with each cheer. To him, this was proof eternal. Ngozi had been the problem, and he had been justified. Years passed quickly, and Amara bore him 2 more children, a girl and another boy. With 3 children running about the compound, Chike became the envy of many men. His laughter rang out daily, his voice booming in conversations. Whenever children played in the dust, he stood with hands on his hips, proud as a king. "Look at them," he would boast to friends, nodding toward his little ones. "Strong, healthy children. I told you the problem was never me. It was that useless woman I first married." The words spread, carried on the tongues of men and women alike, until they reached Ngozi again and again like a relentless echo. Still, she kept her dignity. She had begun to rebuild her life in quiet strength. With the support of her parents and her faith, she found small joys in farm work, in laughter with her siblings, and in the whispered prayers she still raised to heaven. Unbeknownst to Chike, however, beneath Amara's radiant smile was a heart pounding with fear. She knew a secret she would never confess. The children were not truly Chike's. The night she realized Chike was not able to father children, she had made her choice. To protect herself from Ngozi's fate, she had gone outside, first with hesitation, then with boldness, to find what her husband could not give her. And so, while the village celebrated Chike's fruitfulness, Amara carried her hidden truth like a pot balanced on her head, never daring to let it slip. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Chike sat in his compound surrounded by friends, drinking palm wine. His children played nearby, chasing each other around the compound, their laughter ringing like bells. Do you all see? Chike boomed, slapping his chest. 3 children. That first woman wasted my time. But God has shamed her for me. His friends nodded in admiration. Chike, you are truly a man. Yes, a lion does not roar in vain. May your lineage never end. Chike smiled, his pride swelling even more. He looked at Amara, who sat quietly under the udala tree, rocking the baby girl to sleep. Her smile was polite, but her eyes betrayed a storm only she could feel. Deep inside, Amara knew the day might come when the truth would reveal itself. But for now, she wrapped her arms tighter around her baby and prayed silently that her secret would remain buried forever. Little did she know that fate, patient and merciless, had already set its trap. The rainy season had just begun in Amuaka. Heavy clouds brooded over the skies, and the scent of wet earth filled the air. Children splashed about in puddles, their laughter echoing through the village paths, while women hurried home with baskets of vegetables covered in palm fronds. In Chike's compound, however, the rains did not bring joy. Instead, a shadow darker than the storm clouds had fallen. His first son, Obinna, had fallen gravely ill. At first, it was just fever and body weakness, something Amara thought could be cured with herbal concoctions and rest. She boiled bitter leaves, pounded roots, and prayed over her son's body as sweat drenched his small frame. But as days turned to weeks, Obinna's health worsened. He no longer ran about the compound. He could barely sit up. His eyes grew sunken, his lips pale. At night, he cried softly in his sleep, clutching his chest. Finally, when even the village Dibia shook his head helplessly, Chike agreed to take the boy to the hospital in Enugu. The journey was long and tense. Amara carried Obinna on her lap, whispering prayers under her breath, while Chike drove his aging Peugeot with a grim face. The city hospital smelled of disinfectant and echoed with the hurried footsteps of nurses. After several tests, the doctor, a middle-aged man with round glasses, called Chike and Amara into his office. He spoke gently but firmly. Your son is very weak. His condition requires urgent blood transfusion. Chike's chest swelled with relief. Good. Take my blood. I am his father. I will give him life. The doctor nodded and ordered the tests. A nurse drew blood from Chike's arm, then from Obinna's. Hours later, when the results came back, the doctor's face was tight with discomfort. I'm sorry, sir, he said slowly, adjusting his glasses. Your blood does not match with the child's. We cannot proceed with the transfusion. Chike blinked, confused. What do you mean it doesn't match? Is that not my son? The doctor avoided his eyes. Sir, medically speaking, this child cannot be your biological son. We need another donor. The words fell like a thunderclap. Amara gasped, clutching her wrapper tightly. Chike's face turned pale, his lips trembling. He looked from the doctor to Amara, then back at the doctor. Doctor, do your work. Don't talk rubbish. That is my son. Just do the transfusion. I cannot, the doctor replied firmly. It will endanger his life. We need a compatible donor. Please, madam, do you have family members nearby? Amara, her hands shaking, quickly called her cousin in the city, who later came and provided the needed blood. Obinna survived the night, but Chike did not. Inside his chest, something had died, something that had kept him walking tall all these years. That night, in their hotel room, Chike sat in silence, staring at the ceiling. His mind was a whirlwind. He remembered all the times he had mocked Ngozi, all the times he had boasted before his friends, all the times he had declared himself a real man. The doctor's words rang in his ears like a curse. Medically speaking, this child cannot be your biological son. Finally, he turned to Amara, his eyes blazing. Amara, tell me the truth. What is going on? Who is Obinna's father? Amara's hands trembled. She opened her mouth, closed it again, tears welling up. Chike, Biko, it was not my fault. I didn't want to lose my marriage. I didn't want to be sent away like Ngozi. People said you would chase me if I didn't give you children. I was afraid. Afraid of what? Chike roared. His voice rattled the window panes. Answer me, Amara. Whose children are they? Amara's tears fell like rain. They are yours in heart. But in blood they are not. Forgive me, my husband. I did it for us. Chike staggered back as if struck by lightning. His vision blurred. His breath came fast. All the pride he had carried for years collapsed in that single moment. The next morning, With rage boiling in his veins, Chaik marched back to the hospital. He demanded DNA tests for all 3 children. The doctors complied, though reluctantly, sensing the storm that hovered over this man. When the results came back, it was as though the ground had opened beneath Chaik's feet. None of the children shared his blood. Not Obina, not the girl, not the youngest boy. Not one. He walked out of the hospital clutching the papers, his hands shaking so badly that the sheets rattled in the wind. He wanted to scream, to tear the world apart. Instead, he fell to his knees in the parking lot, his cries echoing across the walls. Chiamo, what have I done? My God, what have I done? Amara stood a few feet away, her face swollen with tears. She wanted to go to him, to hold him, to explain, but shame held her back. She had made her choices. Now the truth had been unveiled. That evening, the doctor requested to see Chaik privately. His tone was professional, but his words cut deeper than a knife. Mr. Chaik, he began, I don't usually interfere in family matters, but since the truth has already come out, I need to tell you this. You cannot father children. Tests have shown you are infertile. It is not your wife. It was never your first wife. The problem is you. The room spun around Chaik. He felt as though 1,000 voices were screaming in his head. All the years of insults he had hurled at Ngozi, all the scorn he had poured on her, all the boasting he had done, it was him all along. He was the empty tree. He was the barren soil. His hands clutched his head. His heart pounded like an ancestral drum. His pride, his dignity, his manhood, everything shattered like clay pots dashed against stone. Amara stood by the door, sobbing quietly. For the first time in his life, Chaik felt utterly, completely alone. When they returned to Amoka, the news spread faster than wildfire. Whispers flew through the market. Palm wine tappers gossiped as they climbed trees. Women at the stream shook their heads in pity. Yeah, so after all his boasting, he is the impotent one. Chinikmi, see how he treated that poor Ngozi. God has vindicated her. Pride goes before a fall. Look at Chaik now. Everywhere he went, Chaik felt the sting of eyes on him. His friends no longer called him lion. Some laughed behind his back, others avoided him altogether. The once proud man of Amuka was now a shadow of himself. And this was only the beginning. The compound of Chaik, once bubbling with the laughter of children and the chatter of visitors, had grown eerily silent. The sound of a crying baby no longer echoed from Amara's hut. The pounding of little feet chasing each other in the dust was gone. Even the goats and chickens seemed to sense the emptiness, wandering lazily without the usual squeals of children to chase them. Amara had left. One morning, after a long night of bitter arguments, she packed her belongings and walked out of the compound with the 3 children trailing behind her. She did not look back. Her footsteps were firm, steady, as though she was marching into freedom. Amara, wait. Chaik had shouted, standing helpless in the middle of the compound, his wrapper loose around his waist. His voice cracked, no longer carrying the weight it once did. But Amara did not turn. She held her daughter's hand, balanced the youngest boy on her hip, and walked through the gate without a word. The dust from her feet rose briefly, then settled again, leaving Chaik in a silence heavier than stone. The news of her departure spread quickly, carried from lips to lips, like dry harmattan fire racing through the forest. Amara has left him with all the 3 children. Did you expect her to stay? After the truth came out, what was left for her there? The villagers shook their heads, some with pity, others with glee. Men whispered in palm wine joints, women gossiped at the stream, and children laughed cruelly as they sang mocking rhymes in the dust. Chaik Biyun woke fu. Chaik Biyun woke fu. He chased away a wife, yet he has no seed. Chaik could hear them sometimes, their tiny voices floating over the compound walls. Each word stung him like the bite of soldier ants. No longer did his friends gather in his compound to drink palm wine. No longer did the elders hail him as a man of strength. Now, when he walked to the market, women drew their wrappers tighter and whispered behind their palms. Men avoided his eyes, some smirking when his back was turned. It was said that no disgrace burns hotter than the disgrace of a proud man. Chaik felt it in his bones. Every laugh in the village seemed directed at him. Every whisper carried his name. Even the silence mocked him. At night, he lay on his bamboo bed staring at the ceiling, his heart heavy with memories. He saw Ngozi's face, tearful and broken, the day he had sent her away. He heard his own voice echoing in his mind. You are a barren woman. You are no longer my wife. He remembered the boasts, the drunken laughter with his friends, the way he had paraded his children around like trophies. Now, those very memories tormented him, each one a thorn digging deeper into his flesh. Sleep rarely came, and when it did, it came with dreams that left him drenched in sweat. He dreamed of Ngozi carrying babies on her back, laughing joyfully as she walked past him. He dreamt of Amara standing with strange men, the children clinging to her skirts. He dreamt of himself, alone in a vast compound, the walls echoing with silence. One day, driven by despair, Chaik went to the stream where men usually gathered to fetch water or wash themselves. As he bent to fill his pot, he heard two young men laughing nearby. Do you know the lion has lost his teeth? One said. Lion? You mean Chaik? Ehe, the one who used to boast like a cock? Look at him now. Who would have thought? He was chasing away women like flies, only to discover he has no seed. They burst into laughter. Chaik froze. His hands shook, and the pot slipped from his grasp, crashing against the stones and spilling water everywhere. He did not turn to confront them. Instead, he staggered away, his heart pounding, his ears burning with shame. His family, too, withdrew their support. His elder brother Okoro, who had once stood by him, shook his head in disappointment. Chaik, you have brought shame on this family, Okoro said one evening, his voice low and bitter. You threw away a good woman who loved you. And for what? Your pride has ruined you. Chaik tried to reply, but no words came. He simply lowered his head, the weight of his disgrace too heavy to bear. The seasons changed. The rains gave way to the scorching sun, and the harmattan winds returned with their dry breath. But in Chaik's life, nothing changed. His compound grew lonelier with each passing day. Weeds sprouted where children once played. The once lively courtyard became a graveyard of memories. He tried to seek companionship, approaching women in the village, but none would have him. Some laughed openly, others turned their backs. Who will marry an impotent man? They whispered. Who will waste her youth in a barren house? Even widows, who might have considered him before, now shook their heads. The story of his disgrace was too heavy, too loud. It clung to him like a curse. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Chaik sat alone under the old Udala tree in his compound. His wrapper hung loosely on his frail body, his once proud shoulders now bent under the weight of sorrow. He watched the sky darken, and tears rolled down his cheeks. For the first time in his life, he whispered words he had never thought he would say. Ngozi, I wronged you. May God forgive me. But forgiveness felt far away, like a bird flying beyond the clouds. The man who had once been the pride of Amuka was now a shell of himself. His laughter was gone, his pride shattered, his nights haunted by loneliness. And yet, destiny was not finished with him. Fate had one last card to play, a twist that would strike him deeper than any disgrace he had ever known. The years rolled by, silent but heavy. Time has a way of humbling men, grinding pride into dust until all that is left is regret. Chaik had become a shadow in Amuka. His once broad chest had shrunk. His voice, once loud and commanding, had become hoarse and subdued. The compound that had once echoed with the laughter of children now groaned with silence and the rustle of weeds growing unchecked. No woman came near him anymore, not even widows or desperate women seeking shelter. They had all heard the story. They had all whispered it at the stream, in the markets, in the palm wine joints. Chaik was not a man to build a future with. His house was an empty shell. Loneliness ate at him like termites eating through old wood. At night, he lay awake staring into the darkness, haunted by memories of Ngozi. Her tearful face the night he had cast her out. His cruel words that had cut her like a knife. His arrogance when he paraded Amara and her children as proof of his manhood. Now those memories tortured him. One Saturday morning, unable to bear the emptiness of his compound, Chaik decided to travel to Enugu city. He told himself he needed to buy some clothes, but deep down, he simply wanted to breathe new air, to escape the whispers of his village for a while. Enugu was alive with movement. Cars honked in the busy streets. Hawkers shouted their wares, gala, mineral, pure water, while children tugged at their mothers' hands in crowded markets. The tall buildings and bright shop windows dazzled his weary eyes. He walked into a large shopping mall, the kind he had only visited once or twice in his life. Cool air greeted him as the glass doors slid open. He looked around, overwhelmed by the glitter of shelves stacked with goods. He felt small in that space, but he pressed on, pushing a trolley he barely knew how to handle. And then he saw her. At first, he thought his eyes were deceiving him. A woman stood by the fruit section, her wrapper tied neatly, her blouse elegant, her gelly shining under the fluorescent lights. Around her were 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, laughing as they helped their mother pick ripe mangoes and apples into a basket. Her laughter floated through the air, gentle and warm. Her posture was regal, her skin glowing. Chike's heart skipped. His breath caught in his throat. His hands tightened on the trolley handle until his knuckles turned white. It was Ngozi. For a moment, he stood frozen, as though struck by lightning. His mind swirled with disbelief. The woman he had branded barren, the woman he had cast away in shame, was here before him, radiant, healthy, and surrounded by children. For children. Chike's legs trembled as he walked slowly toward her, his eyes fixed on the children. They laughed freely, chasing each other around the basket, their faces bright with innocence. He could not mistake it. These were her children. Ngozi turned then, her eyes falling on him. For a brief second, their gazes locked. Her smile faltered, her laughter dimmed. The weight of old wounds flickered in her eyes. But she quickly regained herself, straightened her shoulders, and turned back to her children with grace. Chike swallowed hard, his throat dry. Ngozi, he whispered, almost afraid of his own voice. Then louder, stumbling forward. Ngozi, it is me, it is Chike. She looked at him again, calmly this time, her face unreadable. I know who you are, she said softly. Chike's knees buckled. He wanted to fall at her feet right there in the mall, in front of strangers, in front of her children. His voice broke. Ngozi, Baiko, forgive me. I wronged you. I was blind. I thought you were the problem. I chased you away. I mocked you. But look at me now. My life is empty. My house is empty. Please forgive me. His words poured out like a flood, heavy with years of regret. Ngozi sighed, her eyes glistening but steady. She adjusted her basket of fruits, her children tugging gently at her wrapper. Chike, she said, her voice calm and firm. There is no need for all this. Life has already answered for me. When you pushed me away, you thought you had ended my life. But you pushed me into my best life. Her words struck him harder than any insult could. She gestured toward her children, who now stood by quietly, sensing the tension. Do you see them? God gave me these 4. Not 1, not 2, 4. The same womb you mocked, the same womb you called empty. You see now that it was not me. It was never me. Chike's tears fell freely, his shoulders shaking. Ngozi, my heart bleeds. I have nothing. Nothing at all. Please, even if you cannot forgive me, at least pity me. But Ngozi only shook her head gently. Pity is what I had for you when I stayed in your house, suffering your insults. But no more. I have found joy. I have found love. I have found peace. I cannot carry your burden with me. With that, she turned to her children. Kidu, let us go, she said. The children gathered around her, and together they walked toward the cashier, their laughter returning as if nothing had happened. Chike stood rooted to the spot, watching her disappear into the crowd, his tears blurring his vision. He wanted to run after her, to beg more, to explain, but his legs refused to move. The mall, once noisy, seemed suddenly silent to him. The lights, once bright, now seemed harsh. The people around him blurred into shadows. All he could see was Ngozi walking away, radiant and fulfilled, while he remained behind, broken, empty, and forgotten. That evening, when he returned to his silent compound, Chike sat under the Udala tree where he had once boasted before his friends. The compound was overgrown with weeds, the air thick with loneliness. He buried his face in his hands and wept until his voice cracked. An Igbo proverb says, Obu ani kuo aku ka eg ama ani bu ani. It is by the words a man speaks that his true nature is known. Chike's own words had condemned him long ago, and now his fate was sealed. The man who once mocked a woman's womb now sat alone, his legacy swallowed by silence. And in the quiet of that night, the truth echoed louder than any drum. The womb he despised had spoken, and it spoke life.